Elias Thorne sat motionless, the dim amber light of the office casting long, jagged shadows. Across the mahogany desk, Julian Vane adjusted his silk tie with calculated, slow, deliberate movements. The city skyline shimmered outside the floor-to-ceiling glass, a sprawling grid of indifferent, cold lights. Vane leaned forward, his eyes reflecting the sharp, predatory gleam of a man who owned secrets. He began to peel back the layers of a financial architecture designed to vanish into air. Elias felt his pulse quicken as Vane described the intricate, silent dance of offshore shell companies. Strategic asset shifting was not merely a tactic, but a sophisticated weapon in Vane's arsenal. The attorney spoke of legislative blind spots, gaps carved into law by those with deep pockets. These loopholes allowed the ultra-wealthy to legally pay zero in taxes, year after profitable year. Elias kept his gaze steady, his digital recorder humming softly on the polished wooden surface. Every word Vane uttered felt like a heavy stone dropping into the dark, stagnant water. The system was not broken, Vane insisted, but functioning exactly as intended for the elite. It was a labyrinthine corridor of power, accessible only to those with immense, concentrated capital. Elias realized the chilling reality that the game was rigged from its very foundation upwards. The weight of this revelation began to sink into his chest like a leaden anchor. He understood now that there was no single trick, no simple mistake to be corrected. Instead, it was a pervasive, institutionalized culture of avoidance that spanned across the entire globe. This culture systematically drained public resources while rewarding the most affluent members of society. Vane gestured toward the city, his smile thin and devoid of any genuine human warmth. The wealth of nations was being siphoned away through these invisible, highly protected financial pipes. Elias watched the attorney, seeing the architect of a world where justice was purely transactional. The silence in the room grew heavy, punctuated only by the distant, muffled hum of traffic. He knew that capturing this testimony was the most dangerous moment of his entire career. The truth was a volatile explosive, and he was holding the lit fuse in hand. Vane continued his cold exposition, detailing how laws were bought to protect these specific shadows. Elias scribbled a few notes, his hand trembling slightly despite his years of investigative experience. The disparity between the working class and the elite felt wider than the entire city. He saw the faces of those who paid their share, unaware of the massive theft. The recorder light blinked a steady rhythmic red, documenting the betrayal of the public trust. Vane leaned back, satisfied with the damage he had just inflicted upon the social order. Elias stood up slowly, the weight of the information feeling heavier than he had expected. He looked at the city again, seeing it now as a facade for the wealthy. The meeting was coming to an end, but the implications were only just beginning today. He thanked Vane with a curt nod, his mind racing through the consequences of exposure. The attorney remained in his chair, a silent guardian of the secrets he just revealed. Elias turned toward the door, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He stepped into the hallway, the sterile fluorescent lights feeling harsh against his tired eyes. The elevator ride down felt like a descent into a much darker, more dangerous reality. He clutched his bag tightly, protecting the device that held the key to the truth. The lobby was bustling with people who had no idea what was happening upstairs tonight. He walked out into the cool night air, the city breeze biting at his skin. Every shadow now seemed to hold a potential threat, a watcher in the dark night. He reached his car, his movements hurried and frantic as he scanned the empty street. The engine roared to life, a small sound against the vast, uncaring silence of night. He drove away, leaving the office tower behind, yet carrying its dark secret with him. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with risks he had not yet fully calculated today. He thought of the public, the citizens who were being robbed by these hidden schemes. The injustice burned in his blood, fueling a resolve he had not felt in years. He would not let this slide, no matter the personal cost to his own life. The city lights blurred into long streaks of color as he accelerated down the highway. He was a journalist, and his duty was to expose the rot within the system. The recorder in his bag felt like a ticking clock, counting down to the explosion. He arrived at his apartment, the sanctuary he once knew now feeling like a cage. He locked the door, his hands shaking as he set his equipment on the table. The screen of his laptop glowed, awaiting the data that would change everything for everyone. He sat down, the weight of the world pressing heavily upon his weary, aching shoulders. The choice was clear, the path forward laid out in the cold, hard facts recorded. He began to transcribe the audio, each word a hammer blow against the corrupt elite. The night was deep, but the light of his screen promised a coming violent dawn. He was ready to pull back the curtain and let the world see the truth. Armed with Vane's damning testimony, Elias Thorne returned to his apartment, the weight of truth heavy. He He faced a harrowing moral dilemma as he prepared to publish his findings to the world. He knew that exposing the millionaire loophole would make him a target for the powerful entities. These entities relied on the shadows to protect their vast wealth from any public scrutiny whatsoever. As he sat at his desk, Elias began drafting the final manuscript with trembling, determined hands. He reflected on the profound inequality inherent in a society where tax compliance was a burden. The burden was reserved strictly for the working class, who struggled to make ends meet daily. Meanwhile, the elite operated in a parallel, tax-free dimension, shielded by layers of complex financial laws. Elias typed furiously, his eyes scanning the damning evidence that would surely shatter the status quo. The screen glowed in the dark room, casting long, flickering shadows against the peeling wallpaper walls. He felt the cold reality of his choice, knowing his career was likely ending this night. Personal safety was now a luxury he could no longer afford, yet he did not hesitate. The manuscript detailed how the ultra-wealthy systematically drained public resources while rewarding the most affluent. It was a blueprint of institutionalized theft, hidden behind the veneer of perfectly legal financial structures. Elias paused, his finger hovering over the mouse, contemplating the consequences of his impending public action. He thought of the citizens who had been paying the price for these decades of silence. The injustice burned within him, fueling his resolve to finally pull back the heavy velvet curtain. With a sharp intake of breath, he clicked the publish button, sending the truth into cyberspace. The screen refreshed, confirming the upload, and Elias felt a sudden, profound sense of quiet relief. He knew he had forever altered the public discourse on financial justice with this single act. The stage was now set for a volatile confrontation between the architects of the secret loophole. He stood up and walked to the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. The architects would soon come for him, but the truth was already out in the world. He watched the traffic below, wondering how many people would soon understand the game being played. His life would never be the same again, but he had fulfilled his duty as journalist. The silence in his apartment felt different now, charged with the electricity of a coming storm. He gathered his few belongings, knowing he would need to leave this place before the dawn. The digital footprint he left behind was a beacon for those who sought to silence him. He checked his phone, seeing the first notifications of the story spreading across the global networks. The impact was immediate, a ripple turning into a wave of public outrage and intense curiosity. Elias grabbed his coat, feeling the weight of his laptop bag against his tired, aching shoulder. He stepped out into the hallway, the dim lights flickering as he moved toward the exit. The stairs creaked under his weight, a familiar sound that now felt like a warning signal. He emerged onto the street, the cool night air hitting his face with a sharp intensity. He walked quickly, blending into the crowd, a man who had just changed the entire world. Behind him, the city continued its dance, unaware of the tectonic shift occurring in the data. He looked up at the towering skyscrapers, knowing they housed the very people he had exposed. They were the masters of the loophole, but tonight, they were finally caught in the light. Elias felt a strange sense of freedom, despite the danger that now stalked his every step. He had done what he set out to do, regardless of the cost to his life. The story would live on, a testament to the truth that could no longer be hidden. He turned a corner, disappearing into the dark, ready to face whatever consequences came his way. The fight for financial justice had only just begun, and he was its first true casualty. He kept moving, his eyes alert, watching for any sign of those who would hunt him. The city was a labyrinth, but he knew the paths better than most people ever would. He reached the subway entrance, the familiar smell of ozone and steel greeting his weary senses. He descended into the depths, leaving the surface world to grapple with the shocking new revelations. The train arrived with a screech, its doors sliding open to welcome him into the night. He sat in the corner, watching the tunnel walls blur into a streak of gray light. The passengers around him were oblivious, scrolling through their phones, unaware of the unfolding global crisis. He closed his eyes, letting the rhythmic motion of the train soothe his frayed, tired nerves. The truth was a powerful weapon, and he had fired the first shot in the war. He wondered if the people would rise up, or if they would simply ignore the truth. Regardless, the secret was out, and the architects could never truly hide in the shadows again. He felt a grim satisfaction, knowing he had forced the world to look at the rot. The train slowed as it approached his stop, the announcement echoing through the quiet, empty car. He stood up, adjusting his bag, and stepped out onto the platform with renewed, quiet purpose. The night was long, but he was ready for the challenges that awaited him at dawn. He walked toward the exit, a lone figure moving against the tide of a changing world. The millionaire loophole was finally broken, and the era of total secrecy had come to end.